For decades, each one of these files sat in a vault that was never supposed to open. Stamped top secret, buried under code names, guarded by men sworn to take the contents to their graves. And then one by one, the seals broke, and what spilled out was darker, stranger, and far more real than any conspiracy theory ever dared to invent. This is not rumor. These are their own documents, counting down the 10 declassified files the government prayed you would never read. Number 10. Operation Paperclip. In the closing days of the Second World War, the United States quietly launched a program to extract Nazi Germany's top scientists, engineers, and weapons specialists, and bring them to America before the Soviets could. The catch: many of these men were not just brilliant, they were members of the Nazi Party. Some had blood on their hands. To smuggle them in, intelligence officers literally erased their pasts, fabricating clean biographies and quietly attaching a paperclip to the files of the men whose records had been scrubbed. That paperclip gave the operation its name. One of those scientists, Wernher von Braun, went on to design the rocket that put American astronauts on the moon. The same mind that built Hitler's terror weapon built the Saturn V. The file stayed sealed for decades. The government knew exactly who it had let in. Number 9. Project Acoustic Kitty. In the 1960 seconds, at the height of the Cold War, the CIA decided that the perfect spy would be something no one would ever suspect: a house cat. Engineers surgically implanted a microphone in the animal's ear canal, a transmitter at the base of its skull, and threaded a thin antenna along its spine, all the way to its tail. After years of work and a reported budget in the tens of millions of dollars, they released their cybernetic spy near a target in a park. The cat wandered into the street. According to the Declassified account, it was struck by a taxi almost immediately. The program was quietly shut down. The official memo praising the team's effort survived. Millions of dollars, years of surgery, undone by a cat that did exactly what cats do: ignore every single instruction. Number 8. Project Azorian. In 1968, a Soviet ballistic missile submarine, the K-129, sank to the floor of the Pacific Ocean. 3 miles down, deeper than anyone had ever attempted a salvage. Inside it were nuclear missiles, code books, and the encryption secrets of the entire Soviet Navy. The CIA decided to steal it, the whole submarine. To hide an operation this enormous, they built a gigantic specialized ship and told the world it was a deep-sea mining vessel owned by the billionaire Howard Hughes. A staggering cover story to disguise a giant mechanical claw lowering 3 miles down to grip a sunken nuclear submarine and lift it. When journalists later asked the government to confirm or deny the operation, the CIA refused to do either, a non-answer so famous it created a legal phrase still used today. The Glomar response: neither confirm nor deny. Born from a file they prayed would stay buried on the ocean floor. Number 7. The Stargate Project. For more than 20 years, the United States government paid people to spy with their minds. It is called remote viewing, the claimed ability to perceive a distant location, a hidden facility, or an enemy installation using nothing but psychic perception. And yes, this was a real, funded, classified program. Inside drab military offices, recruited viewers would sit in silence and sketch what they claimed to see thousands of miles away: Soviet bases, hostages, hidden weapons. Some sessions were dismissed as nonsense, but a handful of hits were reportedly so specific that the program survived multiple administrations and millions of dollars in funding. It was finally shut down and declassified in the 1990 seconds, when an outside review concluded the results were never reliable enough to act on. Officially, the files that detail the hits they couldn't explain are the ones that still raise eyebrows. Number 6. Project Mogul. In July 1947, something crashed in the desert near Roswell, New Mexico. The local military base issued a press release announcing they had recovered a flying disc. Hours later, they retracted it and said it was only a weather balloon. That single retraction launched the most famous UFO legend in human history. For nearly 50 years, the government stuck to the weather balloon story while the world whispered about aliens and recovered bodies. Then, in the 1990 seconds, the truth was finally declassified. It was not a weather balloon. It was Project Mogul, a top-secret array of high-altitude balloons carrying sensitive microphones designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests from the edge of space. The cover story was a lie. The government admitted it. They had spent decades letting people believe in aliens, because the truth, a secret nuclear spying program, was something they could not allow anyone to know. Number 5. COINTELPRO. From 1956 onward, the FBI ran a covert domestic program with one purpose: to surveil, infiltrate, discredit, and disrupt American political movements it considered dangerous, not foreign enemies, its own citizens. Agents planted informants inside activist groups, mailed forged letters to break up marriages and friendships, leaked smears to newspapers, and worked to turn organizations against themselves from the inside. The program targeted civil rights leaders, anti-war protesters, and political dissidents of every stripe. The public had no idea any of it existed, until 1971, when a group of activists broke into a small FBI field office, stole a cache of secret files, and mailed them to the press. The word COINTELPRO appeared on the documents. The dominoes fell from there. A program the Bureau swore would never see daylight was exposed by the very citizens it was built to watch. Number 4. Project Sunshine. In the early years of the nuclear age, scientists urgently needed to understand how radioactive fallout spread through the human body, especially in the bones of children. To study it, they needed human tissue, a lot of it, from the very young. According to the declassified records, researchers collected human samples from around the world to measure the radioactive isotope strontium-90 absorbed into bone. In many cases, the tissue came from deceased infants and children. And in a number of those cases, the families were never informed and never asked for consent. A senior figure in the program was even recorded admitting, in a once-secret meeting transcript, that obtaining the samples meant going about it in a way he described as body snatching. His own words preserved in the file, a program named Sunshine, built on the quietest, darkest kind of secret a government can keep. Number 3. Operation Northwoods. In 1962, the highest-ranking military officials in the United States drafted a formal proposal for how to justify a war against Cuba. The plan was not to wait for an attack. The plan was to manufacture one against their own people. The declassified documents lay it out in chilling, bureaucratic detail. Staged terror attacks on American soil, fake hijackings, sinking a boat carrying Cuban refugees, even orchestrating violence in American cities. All to be blamed on Cuba and used as the trigger for an invasion. The proposal was signed off by the Joint Chiefs of Staff and forwarded up the chain. It reached the desk of the Secretary of Defense, and there it was rejected. The civilian leadership refused to approve it. But the document is real. It exists. The most senior military minds in the nation had committed to paper a plan to kill Americans to start a war, and prayed no one would ever read it. Number 2. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study. Beginning in 1932, the United States Public Health Service enrolled hundreds of poor men in rural Alabama into what they were told was free health care. The men believed they were being treated for bad blood. They were not being treated at all. The true purpose of the study was to observe what untreated syphilis does to the human body over a lifetime. The men were never told their real diagnosis. And here is the part that turns history's stomach. By the 1942, penicillin had become the standard, reliable cure for syphilis. The researchers deliberately withheld it. They let the disease run its course for decades to keep their data clean. Men went blind. Men went insane. Men died. Wives and children were infected. The study ran for 40 years. Until a whistleblower leaked it to the press in 1972 and the public erupted in horror. It stands as one of the most infamous betrayals of trust in the history of medicine. And it was the government's own program. And the number 1 declassified file the government prayed you would never read. MKUltra. Beginning in the 1952, the CIA launched a secret program with a single terrifying goal: to learn how to control the human mind. The agency wanted to know if a person could be broken down and rebuilt. Their memories erased, their will overridden, their secrets pulled out at will. To find out, they ran experiments on human beings, often without their knowledge, almost always without their consent. They dosed unsuspecting citizens with LSD. They used hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and electroshock. In one branch of the operation, they reportedly set up safe houses where men were secretly drugged and observed through one-way glass. The experiments spanned dozens of universities, hospitals, and prisons, many of which had no idea what they were truly part of. And then, in 1973, when investigators began closing in, the CIA director ordered the MKUltra files destroyed. Most of them were, but by a clerical accident, a cache of financial records survived in a wrong storage building. And those surviving documents blew the entire program into the light. We only know about MKUltra because someone somewhere filed the paperwork in the wrong room. That is the most chilling part of all. Even now, decades later, portions of the McUltra record remain redacted, blacked out for reasons nobody outside the vault can fully explain. They burned everything they could, and it still wasn't enough to keep you from reading it. 10 files, 10 secrets that powerful people swore would die in the dark. Every single one of them was real, documented, stamped, sealed, and hidden, and then dragged into the light by an accident, a whistleblower, or a clerk who filed something in the wrong room. Which makes you wonder, these are only the ones that got out. If you want to keep pulling on the threads they don't want pulled, subscribe and ring the bell, because next week we open another vault that was never supposed to open.